Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina and a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Also like to mention an Air Force reservist, one of the few lawmakers that's still serving in that capacity. Senator Graham, nice to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We continue to hear that the window for diplomacy is quickly closing.
Yeah.
What is our next step, our country's next step in Syria?
Well, number one, we should not be surprised if the Russian autocratic dictatorship doesn't embrace the Arab Spring, and the Chinese communist dictatorship is not a fan of replacing other dictators. What should we do? We should be on the right side of history. We should help arm the rebels, help train them of the coalition of other countries, Arab countries, Turkey. We should be part of a coalition of the willing to establish a no-fly, no-drive zone to shield the people from the barbaric activity of Assad. He's going to go. We should get to know the people who are going to replace him. We should be with them in their darkest hour rather than observing history. We should help mold history. The Obama administration has played this very poorly.
You say the Obama administration has played this very poorly, but do you think perhaps we're doing some of that covertly?
No, I don't think we're doing enough. We don't need to be covert. The last thing in the world America needs to do is hide from leadership. That's what drives me nuts. You know, we're the voice of freedom left in the world. We're the champion of people's right to live free and in dignity. And I don't want to be covert about it. I want to be overt. I want my country, our country, to stand against the torture and the murder and the slaughter. And it's in our national security interest to get Assad out sooner rather than later, because Iran is watching what we're doing. If you could take Assad down through an international coalition led by the United States, maybe the Iranians would take us more seriously. I don't want to be covert at all about this.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Iranians. A report in the Wall Street Journal out today says that there's incredible pressure on Iran and also on Hezbollah. Interesting, a terrorist group and also a state sponsor of terror being Iran. Pressure from the Arab world to engage the opposition, quite frankly. And we should point out to our viewers that Iran has been Assad's best friend in the region. Yeah. So this is very interesting to hear Iran's foreign minister say that he'd like to sit down with the opposition. Not a strong signal to a friend there in Assad. What about us? How do we go about doing that? How do we step in front of line in front of the Iranians?
Well, number one, the Iranians are the primary supporter of Assad. They have Iranian people on the ground who are helping Assad. You got a Russian naval base. The people who are going to take over after Assad will never consider Iran their friend. They're not. If you could take Assad down, Hezbollah, which is trying to destabilize Lebanon and create havoc against Israel, suffers a mighty blow. So no one in Syria sees Iran as their friend. This is a joke to even consider that you should sit down with the people who are helping the guy murder you. The most that they could be your friend. They're not going to be your friend. And what's disappointing for me is that the people who are going to take over Syria, this is inevitable, need to see us as an ally and a friend. And right now we're just sitting on the sidelines. We could do a lot more and should.
You know, we were just showing some photos of young children in the street in Syria, and we also have to think about, you know, our young children at home as well. What's protecting America from the spread of chemical weapons from inside Syria, because we know that they do have some? What's protecting us from that, from those chemical weapons getting out?
Vacuums are going to be filled. The UN Security Council today is ceded its moral authority to have a say in this. Now we should act. Go around Russia, go around China. And this is not, you know, there are plenty of places where people are being murdered and tortured. We can't change everything in the world, but we sure can change Syria. And if we change Syria in a positive way, it helps us with Iran, which is a huge threat, and it helps the region as a whole. So we need to get in there
Senator,
quickly and control these weapons.
Really quickly here, I only have about 30 seconds, but do we have to do that with NATO? Because we saw that model in Libya. Is that something we should repeat here in Syria, or is it purely us alone?
We should check. No, we're not going to act alone. There are plenty. Turkey wants to help. Arab countries want to help. I'd love for NATO to help, but if they don't, we should get a coalition of the willing to create a no-fly zone, no-drive zone, and to start arming the rebels and be a leader in bringing Assad down rather than an observer, and mold the future of Syria by by getting to know the people now when they need us the most. I think this is a huge opportunity to change the region for the better, and the longer we wait, the more people die and the less standing we have.
16 months now. Senator Graham, nice to have you today. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very, very much.